NATO urged to strike a Starlink deal with Elon Musk to limit damage of Russian cable attack. NATO vowed to prepare for, deter, and defend against the coercive use of energy and other hybrid tactics by state and non-state actors, adding that any deliberate attack against allies' critical infrastructure would be met with a united, determined response. Well, we know we had the North Stream sabotage. That was not met with any type of response by Russia. We also had the Crimea Bridge sabotage. That was not met with any determined response by Russia. But I guess if things like that happen in Europe, they will do something about it. NATO has been urged to strike a deal to shore up more of SpaceX's Starlink satellites to limit the impacts of a Russian attack on critical undersea infrastructure, as Elon Musk's system could help to mitigate the potentially catastrophic damage that would be caused if subsea internet cables were cut. An expert told Express UK, NATO has been on high alert ever since explosions at the Nord Stream pipeline caused gas to leak into the Baltic Sea earlier this month as a suspected act of sabotage. The military alliance said that this was a result of deliberate, reckless, and irresponsible acts of sabotage, which the West believes was performed by Russia. Now, that doesn't make any sense to a lot of people. Why would Russia blow up her own pipelines? Or why would Russia blow up her own bridge to Crimea? I mean, that doesn't even make sense. Now, in response, it has vowed to prepare for, deter, and defend against the coercive use of energy and other hybrid attacks by state and non-state actors. Any deliberate attack against allies' critical infrastructure would be met with united, determined response, they said. So while the attack was on energy infrastructure, experts have raised the alarm over the West's vast network of subsea internet cables. They could be targeted too, they said, and if cut, this could potentially disconnect Europe from the rest of the world, or at least significant parts of it, and communications would be disastrously slow, according to Brandon Weichart, former congressional staff member and author of Winning Space, How America Remains a Superpower. But I thought that most of our communications were by satellite. Anyway, subsea cables are pivotal for global communication infrastructure, accounting for around 95% of all transatlantic data traffic, according to the International Cable Protection Committee. As of 2022, there are 530 active or planned submarine cables, but there may be a saving grace, and it could lie in the hands of the world's richest man. Mr. Weichart told Express, Elon Musk has proven with his Starlink system that there are redundancies in place to help mitigate any potential loss of capabilities that would occur thanks to Russian severing of those undersea lines. So NATO in general needs to either put in a large rush order for more Starlink capabilities to augment the capabilities that undersea cables give them, while at the same time replicating the Starlink model locally. SpaceX's Starlink is a satellite internet constellation, and it provides internet access coverage to 40 countries. The high-speed, low-latency service has been used in the Ukraine-Russia conflict to help the invading country maintain signal amid Russian onslaught, and Starlink services were first opened to the public in 2021. But not all experts are on the same page about the system's capability of protecting connection if subsea cables were damaged. Gabriel Eleftheriou, Director of Strategy and Space Policy at Policy Exchange think tank, said, the short answer is that nothing can substitute at scale for the undersea cable infrastructure anytime soon. The amount of data they carry, 97% of all global communications, is simply too vast for that capacity to be replicated through space systems at this stage at least, he said. Mr. Eleftheriou explained that for Starlink to work properly, the satellites themselves connect to the internet via ground station gateways, but in the UK, for instance, gateways themselves connect to the global internet via the undersea cables. And Eleftheriou said the idea of using the current Starlink system to mitigate cables disruption is, in principle, a catch-22. Gen 2 Starlink satellites and beyond are slated to have inter-satellite links, meaning that in theory they will need to have as many ground stations. However, this is not the whole story, it's just the baseline. The actual loss of capacity in a Russian attack scenario saw the data traffic deficit that Starlink would have to cover, and the gateways that would still be in service will depend on a number of things, especially if you consider the UK alone. For example, how many and which cables will the Russians cut, and what will be the nature of the damage? The which question will determine what the knock-on effect on the ground will be. Hence, such sectors will be affected, etc. There may be ways to reroute some of the traffic from some users onto other cables, for instance. But while the systems may not be able to completely eradicate any possible impacts, Mr. Eleftheriou did suggest that the Starlink systems may still help to soften the blow in the event of an attack. He said, can Starlink help soften the blow? The answer is technically yes, in the sense that anything that Starlink can provide will help. But again, it depends on what effects you're looking to mitigate. Do you need a very quick restoration of connectivity, or indeed an immediate switch en masse to Starlink for the affected network systems, etc.? That will require having Starlink terminals, hence an entire redundancy network already in place. Otherwise, if you can weather some loss of capacity for a while, if the attack is limited and existing redundancies can cope, that would give time for repairs, he said. Meanwhile, the UK may currently have no other hope, given that it is currently incredibly difficult to defend these cables as they span the entire globe and are often located in very remote areas that submarines or unmanned underwater vehicles would easily be able to target undetected. Mr. Weikart warned navies have been aware of Russian capabilities and intentions as they relate to the undersea cables going back to the Cold War. The Western navies and the Russian Navy both are skilled at tapping and or destroying those capabilities. The difference is that in the post-Cold War era, President Putin has fixated on enhancing his Navy's capability to threaten those systems, whereas the Western alliance has allowed their abilities to adequately defend those lines to wither on the vine. The problem facing the West is an imbalance of forces on this particular issue. It's not totally hopeless, but there simply are not enough eyes to be able to fully and reliably protect the undersea capabilities from Russian sabotage. And this is on Express UK by Jacob Paul. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.